Everyone, today we'll be working on a yarn stash buster and basically, because of all the work that I do and I buy a little bit of this and a little bit of that sometimes, and occasionally when I go to the yarn seller, the one that I told you about, that it's in that open market that's close to in Porto Portesi here in Rome, occasionally she'll throw in a few colors that probably they don't have much left of. She'll just give it to me for free, you see. So I'm left with all this yarn, and I wanted to do something, and I had promised before when I did the Potholder Loom skirt that I would come back with a larger project. Well, now I'm going to show you how to make a hooded jacket. It's very much like a granny square jacket, but the only difference is that because we're dealing with a loom that has a fixed size, it's not like the other kind of knitting looms and all that, where you can actually make varying lengths. But with this kind of a loom, you can't, you see. You're fixed with either 6x6, or you can go for the half, which Noreen Croft Finley shows you how to do in her video. And you can do half a square, so it means a rectangle with the method that she shows in her video. If you're interested in various techniques, Noreen Crone Finley, sorry, I pronounced her name wrong, is excellent, with a great, lovely voice that she has, so soothing and wonderful. But I found that I wanted to do initially something that would have both the benefit of using up the yarn that I had, and also create something that people would actually want to wear, you see. And because, when you have so much yarn, what happens is that whatever pattern that you create, you're going to want to use up all this yarn, but at the same time, it must look nice, not like a hodgepodge of colors and no scheme, no real continuity or congruity to the garment. Then, when you wear it, you look like, something from a throwback, one of those really ghastly pieces from the 60s, Flower child. But anyway, what I meant was to say is that here we're going to do something that hopefully you would want to wear. So, okay, one is called weft. Weft is the one that you do the base with, and waft. It's warp is the one that you put on top, right? So the weft will always be in another color, and the warp will always be black. So what you can do is that you can use any color that you want, but because you're always using the black as the warp, what happens is that it gives a kind of a continuity to the whole piece, you see. So it doesn't matter how many squares you do. If you follow this kind of a principle, you will create a garment that has something that flows throughout the garment, that gives it a kind of that it makes it come together, it's a kind of cohesive force, to the garment. You must have that, otherwise you're basically just, if you want to make a blanket or a granny square, one of those kind of those kind of wedding, even those wedding quilts, like those American quilt shows and all that, even those, they have a theme to it, Everything must have some kind of theme to it, Even if you're using varied kind of material and textures and yarn, or even for like in those patchwork cases, they're using fabric that is all completely different. Most probably they always have some kind of story behind it, Like they might go for the nature, or they go for the Civil War look or something. So they'll have things that are put into the quilt that gives this kind of a theme, and that's important. So now the other thing I want to point out is that if you have yarn that is thinner, you see, for instance, this yarn that I have, I've got only a few skeins of this, has only, how much is this? The knitting needle is 3.5 to 4, whereas these are all around 4 millimeter knitting needles, you see. So this is actually thinner than this one, slightly thinner. So, it's not that much thinner actually. perhaps you can actually use this also 2 strands. But what I wanted to say is that if you have really thin thread, like for instance 2.5 millimeter or 3 millimeter, and they're going to be considerably thinner than this, let me give you an example. Now what I was explaining to you earlier was when you have considerably thinner thread like this is considerably thinner, as you can see here quite clearly. This is very thin in comparison to this, which is thicker. Hang on. You know, as you can see here, this is very thin, this thread, you know, and this is thicker. This is 4 millimeter and this is about 2.5 to 3 millimeter, you see. So now if you want to use yarn like this, and I'm sure in your yarn collection you must have yarn that is much thinner than the one that you intend to use on the loom, you see, because I'll be using 2 strands. Each time you work, you'll be using 2 strands to make either the warp or the weft, you know. The weft, the bottom part, you'll be using two balls each time, you know, to work the weft, you know. And what happens is that when you're working with the yarn, if you have yarn that is this thin, make sure you avoid using this for the warp. Don't put it at the bottom, because when you're working this and you're trying to pass the hook in between going up and down this way, it will be very difficult for you to pick up 8 strands or 6 strands. Much easier to work with 4 strands, you see. So always in that kind of situation, you use the black as the weft, and you use the black as the warp, that is the bottom, and you use the yarn that is thinner as the weft, that means the part that you put on top. So always remember that when you're working with the yarn, the warp has to be one which uses less strands, and you can make the weft use more strands. So that way, when you're pulling, you can pull 8 strands of thread easily across, you see, but you will not be able to pick up every single strand as you're working. And believe me, when you're doing so many squares, we'll need to do about 45 for this pattern. You don't want to have a situation where you're going through 8 strands and picking, because if you make one mistake, the whole square will be ruined, you know. So try as much as possible in this kind of a situation, make it so that you have yarn that is similar to each other. And if you want to use up the yarn that is thinner, make sure that you put it on top. Not for the bottom layer, but the layer that goes on top, the layer that you're going to pull across. Now, there are various methods and patterns that you can use. One of them will be this. I won't be actually strictly only using this kind of a checkered look. I was also thinking that if I can make some other kind of pattern also to work for me, I would also incorporate that into my pot holder jacket. You see, that's more like a pot holder, like a patchwork jacket, you know. But the main thing, like I pointed out earlier, is that you have to have the running color, you know, that is the black in all of it, either as the weft or the warp. The color has to be present in every single square. Now, as for the instructions on how to work this, now, what we have here, I have just drawn it very, very crudely, you know, because it's not really actually a very difficult jacket to make, you know. In fact, I think there is another pattern you can come across. Someone who did crochet granny squares, they did a very simple jacket, and I more or less used the same kind of a pattern, you know. It's a very, very simple jacket that has all of the pieces are very simple. There is no shaping involved, nothing, you know. So this kind of a jacket is easy to work, you know. And I also will be showing you exactly how to work the ends where you have got 2 yarn sticking out, coming out like this, you know, and how to make it part of the square so that your square does not unravel when you take it off the loom, you know. Now, because we are dealing with a fixed loom, like I explained before, you get 6 by 6, you have to have a garment also that works within the measurements of the loom. So our back is going to be 24 by 24. Simple, because 24 is divisible by 6. So you will have 4 by 4, that will give you 16 squares for the back. The front, again, something divisible by 6 is 12 by 24. Simple, you know. 2 fronts, you do 12 by 24. The sleeve, again, also divisible, is 18 by 18. That is, all of these figures, as you will notice, is completely divisible by 6. And the hood is 12 by 12. You have to make 2 pieces of the hood, 2 fronts, 1 back, and 2 sleeves. And so, oh, I have actually made a mistake when I said, when I counted 45 squares, I will actually need to make 54 squares. I forgot the other sleeve. Yeah, 54 squares. Hang on, you have to have 16 and 16, 32, 32 and 18, 50, and for the hood you will need 8 squares, sorry, 58 squares in all. So that's the final figure for you to do. You have to make 58 squares. So you have a lot of room and a lot of colors that you can play around with this kind of a dimensions. You see, 58 squares is a lot. So now what we can do is I'll show you how to make one of the, let's do with this, and then I'll show you how to work this. And Noreen Crone Finley has a very nice video on YouTube. She shows you how to use normal yarn to make these squares. But the difference here is that because I'll be using 2 different colors and some of the colors will be sticking out at the end, I will have to show you how to do it and also to pick up the stitches and work the side in the chain and incorporate the strands that come from having 2 colors on a loom like this. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make this. Then we will work the other patterns as I come across, or when I decide how to work them, because right now I haven't really worked on any other pattern except that, but I will be probably trying for other looks also. Okay, now when you make this part here, make enough leave enough yarn, waste yarn, that you can use it for joining the squares together, you know. So leave a considerable amount so that you can join each square to the other square, you know, using 2 strands here of 4mm strands. Okay, now first thing you do is that you make a knot and leave it here. Okay, now we are doing the waft. This is what is the waft. Alright, now what you do is you just go across, okay, across, come back to this side here. See, when across, you come back here, then you do your, you keep on going back and forth. That's all you have to do. Don't make it too tight and don't pull it until you know you make the yarn very thin. Do this rather loosely because you'll be having to move your hook through them. So don't make it too tight. I'm just going back and forth, you know, there's nothing very complicated about this. In fact, you can go through any of the videos. There are quite a few videos on YouTube that show you how to do this part, you know. I think there's one, Roxy Kickbucks, I think. She's also very good, you know. She's a very young girl. She did a very nice video on how to make a yarn square, you know. Very nicely done, I must say. I like the way she did it. It helps when you put your hand, your fingers to hold the yarn in place. I'm trying to make some for my friends. I'm trying to make something nice for them for Christmas, and right now the yarn is all stuck here and there. So it's getting caught up in that work also while I'm working on them, because it's kind of like a shiny metallic yarn that I'm using to make something for them. Why something simple, I know. So okay, now we've reached the end. Cut off a length after you've reached the end here. This last one will not be covered, you know, it's not, you're not going to go back and finish over the other side. You're finishing it off on this side. Cut off a strand. Now after you finish that, you cut off the strand and you tie it here. Okay. Alright, just to keep it in place so it doesn't move, you know, because you'll be using this to move the hook about, you know. So try as much as possible to keep it steady. And you see, it's got a little bit of a bounce, you know. That's how it must be. Not too loose that it doesn't have this little bit of a bounce. It must have that, you know. Now the black. Same thing. You tie the two strands that you're working with. This thread that I've got, actually they're identical, but you know, you don't have to use identical threads, you know, like I've already mentioned, this is supposed to be a yarn stash buster, so you can use any thread that you want. Alright, now what you need to do is you just tie it here. This tying that you do is that it's just a simple one little overhand knot, you know, it's not really a something that's going to keep it in place. That's all it is supposed to do. Alright, now the first thing you do is that first thing, you make sure that you have quite a bit of yarn so that the tension is not too much. Now here you go use this part of the hook, you go under, okay, 4 strands, over, under. Every time you go over the 4 strands. See, 4 is easy. This is the part I was telling you about, you see. If you put 8 strands here, you're going to really kill yourself, you know, because it's going to be so difficult. Now you come over onto this side and you see this first peg here. Go behind the peg, place your hook like that and wind the yarn over it like that and just stick it across. And place it onto the hook. Okay, this time when you go across, you go over. Earlier you went under, now you go over. Make sure you're picking up 4 strands at a time, but the second one should be easier because you've already got the first one done. So the second one, you're just gonna go interweave between the one that you've done the row before, so it's much easier for you to notice you're picking up 4. Alright, now go to the next peg, behind that peg, do the same thing again and bring it across and loop it onto the peg like that. Bring it down so that it sits properly. Go to the next one, this time it's under. You start under first. I like Noreen going over, under, over, under. I just love her voice. But even Roxy is also very good. If you want to follow Roxy Kickbucks, you can go and see her video also. She also does a very good explanation on how to work the She's a little very young girl. I think what, she's 9 or 10. Very, I mean, so young and so good. She's got a great future, that girl. We'll come back when we're towards the end. Okay, we're on the last one. Last one is always a bit more difficult. And it's especially difficult on the Zoom loom, you know. The Zoom loom, the one, the little 4x4 loom. The one that I did a shrug with, you know. That one was a tough loom to use. But you use very thin yarn for that one. You can't use this kind of yarn for it. No. You have to keep on slightly turning the hook so it doesn't get caught. Noreen actually doesn't use this hook, you know. She doesn't particularly like it very much. So she uses the chopsticks, I think, which she wove into a loom. You see, when I'm trying to show, it always doesn't work out so well. Alright, okay, there. Here's the last one, alright? Done. Now, this one you can just snip it off. If you want, you can leave it a certain length, but since I don't have a lot of black, I don't really want to use it to join the pieces. Okay, now, you've got one strand here, and a couple of strands here. Now what you need to do is just take out all the loops. This scissor is always looks so deadly, you know, that scissor. I bet I could kill someone with it. Now there, not that I want to, but you know, it's pretty dangerous looking, that one. There you go. It's a lethal weapon, as my husband puts it. Now there you have this and this. Alright, now these two loose strands here, and you have the final last one here also loose. You can take it off. So now I will show you how to neaten up the sides and to pick up these two, because the one that I saw, I think it was Lion brand yarn, they did the Martha Stewart loom, you know. But theirs is different, you see, because they've got pegs here. So they have got a loop on the peg. And so it's much easier to finish, you see. But I didn't see anything that I could really use on the net or on YouTube or anywhere where it would help in finishing up something like this. You can have a look at the back also to make sure that you haven't made any mistakes, you know, when you picked up your loops, you know, and make sure that you went through each of them 4 at a time. If you made any mistakes, try and adjust it accordingly. Looks like I made a mistake here. Hopefully it just adjusts itself when it comes out. I don't want to take it off. Alright, okay. Now you have this all done up. Now take a crochet needle. Mine is a size 6. My yarn is 4 and I'm using 6. But then, alright, now where you have to start off is the corner. Alright, this corner where you first started. Alright, here, this corner is where we first started. I've taken out all the loops. This is the one which has the 2 loops. Sorry, the 2 4 strands. One is the waft and the other is the weft. And here you have the very first part that you started with, okay? So what you do is, you start from this corner, the corner where you started was here, and then you wound. You start from this corner, you pick up the first loop. And there are various videos on this, even the ones that use the Potholder loom. You just pass the first loop over the second, pass it over, just like that. Okay, you keep doing this until you come to the end, and I'll show you how to pick up the 2 strands here. Pick up the next one, pass the back loop over. You're just basically doing a chain, you know, like you would in a crochet. That's how you pick up these loops. Now work the next lot of the contrasting color. There are various videos on this, you know, so you know, if you can't see what I'm doing very well, or you can't follow me because I'm so bad at the only part that you have to pay attention is when I come to the 2 strands that we cut off, you know, because they have to be incorporated into the square, because if you don't, it will just unravel. So I think that part is important. Once you come to the second side, the third side is secure. It's these 2 sides that will come off, you know, if you take them off the loom and try to work these edges. So make sure that these 2 sides, this one here and here, you keep it on the loom when you're working. But the third side, you don't have to. But then I prefer to keep it on the loom, you know, although Noreen always bravely takes it off. Okay, now we are on to this side. Keep pulling them off. I know this part is a bit difficult for you to see because of the black, but I'm doing the same thing as I have been doing before, just passing the back loop over the front. Nothing complicated. It just gives a very neat edge, you know, you see. See, because when you're using the loops, the one that they normally use on the Potholder, you don't have this problem of these strands that you have cut, you see. The main reason why we have to use some form of technique to keep this in place is because you've got strands going out. Okay, now, you've got 2 strands here, 1 and 2. Alright, now basically what you need to do, here you have got both the strands here that stick out. Take one, pass it through, then take the other one and chain it through. That's it. You have now caught it up in between the work of the Potholder work. Now what's left is these. Take it off because now it's relatively safe already. You have caught up everything within the thing. Pull up the thing. Now continue just finishing it. Pick up the loops, chain them, that's all I'm doing actually. Now, here, this last loop here, go through it, pull it through, and then the strand that you initially started with, just pull the whole thing through. That's it, finish. You finished another square. See, and this part here is now caught up here, you see. It's safe. It will not unravel. Alright, there. You've got another square done. You see? And even though they are of different colors, they have some similarity because of the black. You can also put it this way so that you can always have a black edge when you join them. Now, later on we'll discuss how we're going to place the squares that you've made onto the loom. I hope you got that and that was clear. Okay, I managed to figure out how to do the houndstooth on the potholder loom, and my main problem was I was trying to work it the way that they did it on the Martha Stewart loom, you see, and that's the main reason why I couldn't get it to work. So I'm going to show you how to do this on the potholder, and then I will also show you how to work the edges. You can follow either the way that I do it, or you can do the way that Noreen Crone Finlay does it on the Martha Stewart loom, the way that she finishes off the edges, you know. I have a different technique. So, I mean, you can pick whichever you feel is easier for you to handle, alright? Now, let me just show you how to work this. Okay, so now I'll show you how to do this houndstooth. First, let's start with the plain color. Now, focus yourself always on these pegs, not the pegs at the bottom. Always just make sure that you always wrap 2 pegs. Now, the first one is like normal, like you always do. You come there, then you go back to the first peg here, go round, come back, and you have wrapped 2 pegs. So now you take the black you take the black now, go round and wrap 2 pegs. Now the light gray again. You start with the cream, and you, like I pointed out before, you do 2 pegs, 2 pegs, and then when you come to this corner, I'll show you how to secure the thread. Now, when you're working this, always make sure that you take the next strand and go over the thing so that you kind of lock it in place, you know, so that it doesn't keep coming off. So you do the next 2. Always keep an eye on this side to know how much you have to do. 2 across. Then take this and lock it, put it over the black. See? Put it over the black there, as you can see. That will prevent the black from moving, you see. Then you continue with the cream. Then now, when you do this, you take the black and make it go over the cream. Again, locking the cream in place, so that you won't have the problem of the winding yarn coming off the pegs. Okay, so now look at how evenly they are distributed. 2 pegs, 2 pegs, 2 pegs. Everywhere there are 2 pegs. Now we will work with the black first, okay? And this is where I want to show you how to use the trimmer, you know, the way that you twist at the sides. Now here, you come along here, and this is the way that you're going to pick up your first. It's the normal way that you do it. Even if you're using one color, this is the way that you do it. So firstly, you go under here, under like you normally do here. You go under 4 strands. Make sure you're picking up 4 strands. Over 4, under 4, over 4. And you keep doing that until you reach the end. reach the end here, pull it taut and take it across. You have to do 2 each time. Alright, again focus on the opposite side. Don't focus on this side, okay? Focus on this side. Make sure you have 2 pegs every time. Now here's what, okay, now you've done the first part here, the warp, I think, and or the weft, I can't really remember, always I get them mixed up. And okay, there you see that's 2 of each, as you can see. Always remember to keep your eye on the opposite side. Now we're going to work this, and you pick them up under over like you always do. When you come across here, you take the black. It always starts with the black on this side. Well, earlier you started with the other color, but now it's the black. Now here, what you do is, when you come here, you make sure that you entwine the cream thread so that it is taken off, because I stuck it here. All right, now this is here. Make sure that you entwine this here so that it is caught up here. Just this one corner you need to do that. After that you didn't do it, you know. You can do it like this, like I've done here. Just make sure that you lay the next one over the one that was previously done, and that's all. And we'll come back after this, after you've done all of this and finished this houndstooth pattern like I've shown in the other video, and I'll show you how to take it off the loom. What it does is, when you do it like that, it serves to lock it in place here. You see here, what it does is that you have locked it in place here by bringing it in between the 2 pegs that you were doing here, the 2 pegs. When before you do the second one, you bring the cream color up and entwine it there. You see, so this way it will be less likely to be very loose when you take it off the loom later. Alright? When you finish off the edges, it's much easier to work with them. So keep twisting the thread as you work. You have done 2, now you have to do the grey. So bring the grey in front. Work this. Go under, over, under, over. Pick up the next, which will be the light gray, and again do the same thing for 2 pegs. Make sure you're counting 2 pegs on this side, 2 pegs. And see whether there's any flaws. The best way is to look at the back, you know. The back always shows you that. See, I've made a mistake here. I left out one of the things. As you can see clearly here, this has been, there is a mistake here. So I've got to take that out and redo that part. But you know, you begin to see the houndstooth forming. Okay, I'm going to show you, this is a completed piece. I just want to show you how to take it off the loom, the houndstooth, once you've done it. See, look at the sides. You see how I have, at each point I have twisted it, you know, to make sure that the yarn is done like that. Also here, this side it's twisted. Okay, make sure you do this. It will make it easier for you when you take it off the loom. This part you leave it like that, and this is the last bit. Okay, then okay, now we take off the knot that we've made here. I had to make an extra knot because it kept slipping off, you see, so I did a little bow knot. Alright, take this off, it off. So you start from this corner, the corner where you had the knot, you know. You pick up the first one, Pick up the second one, pass the first over the second. Keep on doing this. Passing the back over the first loops. The two loops, pick up both loops. Pass the back over the first. Keep doing this along this side and this side. When we reach here, the part where the complication could arise, the part where Noreen shows you how to do the thing, I'm doing it in a different way. I'll show it to you soon. Now we've reached here, the point where these two parts have been completed, this one and this side, you know, here and this side we've completed. Now here it is safe to take it off, so as Noreen says, take a deep breath and pull it off the loom. Okay, push the loom aside. Now here, the way Noreen does it is that she pushes the loops back and forth, you know. I won't do that. I'll just start by picking up the first loop, black, do the black, then pick the cream. I'm just picking the colors as they appear, you know. I'm not doing anything special. I'm not pushing the loops back and forth. Of course, the back part I'll show you later. I suppose the way that Noreen does it doesn't have that kind of an effect. But since, you know, the back part will not be appearing in front of the jacket, so it doesn't really matter. This is the part that will be the right side, you see. Now, the crucial point is because this one, each one takes two, you know. You're doing two of one color and then two of another color. Each time you pick two up. Just to make sure, look behind, that you have not left anything behind. Now you've just taken two. Now you go and take the black. And you take the black one more time. Then there is this particular cream. You take that. And here is where the difference is. Noreen doesn't do this because, you know, she's doing it as the color comes, you know. It's two of each. But I take it one more time here. So you will have a black and a cream, you know. That means it's not the way that it appears here every time it's two, you see. This way, though, you can continue taking the loops as they come. But if you don't do that there, you're going to have to do it Noreen's way, you see. But the problem is that, you see here, it's one only, the loop, you know. All the others will be two. This will be the only part. But then since you're joining it to other plain colored pieces and all that, I don't think it really matters, you see. And this is a far easier way to take it off the loom than pushing the loops back and forth, you know. But that's up to you. If you want to do it that way, then just follow. I think it's called two color, the one that Noreen does, the two color weave, you know, when she takes it off the loom. And I think that the one that she has done is on the Martha Stewart loom. See, each one of them is two, you see. Only here, it's one. Do the last ones. See, here also it's the same thing, you see. Push this to the back. Again, you're going to have to take the color. Here also is only one. And you put it through the last loop. Pick up the last one. And you take both, all four strands through the loop. And you have completed the square. You see, they are all straight here and also here. They are all straight, you see, and they follow the color that they are supposed to be. You can follow this method, or, you know, it's up to you, or you can follow the way that Noreen does it, you know. But the problem is that, of course, the back, you see, I think the way that Noreen does it doesn't have this kind of a back, but this back will be at the back of the garment, you see, so it won't really matter. The front looks fine. So it's entirely up to you. If you are unhappy with the way that this is done because you don't like this incongruity here, then by all means do it the way you want. But you have to do the entwining so that it will be easier for you to pick up pieces or pick up the colors as they come. Because each one of them, anyway, when they end, they are all correct, you know, because they're supposed to be the houndstooth. Okay, when you're doing these, with a one solid color like this, it's very, very difficult, and you will often miss a strand or so. Noreen says to put a stick of some kind here, separating them, you know, so that you can see the stitches, and you can look on the back side and, you know, make sure that you've got the stitches correctly. You see, here you have to pick up 4. Since you're doing a plain color, especially a dark one, it's rather difficult to get the what do you call when you pick up the strands, you know, to go over and under, you're going to have a bit of difficulty. So if you put something up here, it will help that. Just, you know, it's just a little, what would you say, public service announcement, you know, because if you don't do this, you probably will have some difficulty trying to finish a plain color. So I've made so many mistakes, I have to keep on taking it out, and finally I got fed up and decided to do what Noreen says. I should have listened to her before. You can see this is rather dense, you know, and it's difficult, you know, when you make a mistake you have to take out the rows and keep doing that. So, you know, when you're given good advice, one should always take it. I used a chopstick, and, you know, before you start, you should just put the chopstick here, you know, get the strands all sorted out in 4s. Otherwise you're going to really woe the day that you didn't do it, because it's really, really terrible to work this kind of a color. And you keep making mistakes, you will miss a strand because it's very dark and very difficult to see. But you can look at the back and you will immediately see where you've made a mistake. So be good and listen to Noreen. Okay, now I just wanted to tell you how to join this, you know. What you need to do is basically, you see this join here that I've done here? See this join? You can hardly even see there's a join there, you know, except for the fact that the colors are different. But the join itself is not visible unless you pull it apart like that, then you can see. So you can't see it very clearly here, but the stitches are at the back. And how you do this is you pick, now look at the side of this, you have to pick the back stitch here, this one here, not this front part. This front part should come up on top, you know. So you pick the back stitch here, this stitch, and you join it to the back stitch of this. Okay, you just whip stitch it, so that when you put it together, this part and this one will be together, and so what you will see is only the front, you know, so that it looks like that. You see here, after it's joined up, it will look like that, you know. You can't see the joining at all. You can't see what you use. You can't even see the color of the thread that you used to join these two together. Okay, same thing here. You see, you can't see it. And here also same thing. You can't really see the join. That's how you join all the squares together. After you've decided the formation that you like, the one that you know, from depending on the colors that you use and all that, once you're happy with what you have, you sew them up. Okay, just wanted to say, when you join these squares together, you're going to lose about an inch overall. So a bag that is supposed to be 24 inches will come up to 23. So keep that in mind, and if you find that you are going to be drastically affected by the reduction in the width or length, then I suggest you either make another square, or you can work half a square, which is a rectangle really. And Noreen, on one of her videos, in Noreen Crone Finlay, she has got a video that shows you how to do a square on a rectangle that is half of this square on the potholder loom. So if you want to add half a square along the side so that you can get about 2 inches extra or 2.5 inches extra, 2 to 3 inches I think you should be able to get, then go ahead and do that. I just wanted to show you also the pointer. You see the back, this is the back. When you are joining, don't whip stitch across. That means you move the needle to the point on the same side. That means after you have crossed over and picked up both the loops, you go to the next one down here. Don't cross over, so that it's also neat at the back. You can hardly see the joint even at the back. That's the way to do it. Okay, I learned that after doing the front. You see, my back is a bit messy, but the front is a little better. Just wanted to tell you about that. Now, you lay them out flat like this. This is the back, this part here. Up to here is the back. And these are the two fronts. Here. And here. And these are the sleeves. Okay, now, you join the back and the front. When you join the back and the front, you join only this panel to this, and you leave this open. That means this part here is not joined, here is joined. After you've joined just this panel and this panel, you join the sleeves to the body, exactly as it is here, like this. You join them up. Okay, can you see that? So you will join the sleeves to here and this part to here. Now the reason why, even when you fold down the sleeves, they will not match, because the whole idea of this piece is incongruity rather than making it all match up, you see. So you shouldn't try and match anything up, because other pieces are not matched up. As you can notice, the whole design is not matched, you see. So if you have a matched part, it will look a bit off, because the other pieces are not matched. Alright, that's why even the sleeve doesn't match up. Only the center line is the same, but the sides are different. But if you want to have the sleeves exactly the same, then you reverse the order of one of the sleeves. The top part goes to the bottom and the bottom goes to the top. Then both the sleeves will match. That is up to you if you want to do it that way. Okay, after you finish that, now there's a whole lot of loose thread hanging about. Now that cannot be avoided. I'm just going to make knots and cut them off. No way am I going to sew all this in. That's like a year's worth of work there. Alright, now that's how it looks when it's done. And what you need to do here is, you see these parts here? There is one space open here, here and here. Take the hood. Okay, my hood is not complete yet because I haven't finished the last pot holder piece. Now, it's 8 pieces for the hood, right? Okay, got my knee on one of the strands of thread. Fold it and hem up this part here. Sew up this side here, so you get a hood as a result. Okay, then you take, okay, let me try and get the other bit off. Alright, you have a hood. Now, after you've hemmed up, you'll have a hood. Now, when the hood will stand, this part here will be joined up, here. It will be joined up here. So, you will have this, this, this and this. Join this part to this, okay, the front. Join this to the back piece here. Okay, this one, the parts that you're going to join, there are 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Take this piece, put it in the front. Take this piece, join it to the back piece, back panel. This one to this back panel. Then the last one here to the front. Of course, I'll be changing the position because I don't know how I'm going to lay the hood up. But that's how you join the hood onto the main part of the sweater. Jacket. There. Hope you get it. This part will be joined up, there will be joining here. So it'll look like a hood. I hope you got my rudimentary explanation on how to join up this jacket. Wasn't clear enough earlier. This is the front, okay? These are the 2 flaps of the front that you will not be sewing on. This is the hood. I've pinned it, I managed to complete the last, it's 4 by 4, and you pin it along one side so that you get a look like this, look like a hood, no? See? You see that? It's a hood. Now, what you need to do is, you have to join this to the back, these 2, the center 2 pieces, to the back, okay? And you join this flap to this front and this flap to this front, and then you have your jacket. Hope that's clear. I'm going to give a trim to it all. I'm going to do a single crochet, maybe a couple of rounds of single crochet all around to neaten the edges. And because my sleeves are not long enough and it's too much to add another square, so I'll be doing about this much of single crochet to add length to the sleeve, also in black. So everything will be edged in black, since black is the predominant color for the Houndstooth. Every one of the Houndstooth squares has black in it, okay? Like I said, a central theme was there. Anyway, maybe you can come up with better color combination than I have. I actually used whatever I had. I didn't buy anything, So this was all leftover yarn that I had, So if you've got an idea and you want to try this pattern, perhaps, you might be able to get a better looking garment if you were to use colors that you bought and matched up instead. Just an idea how to use a potholder loom to create a jacket. So, this is the black edging I was telling you about in single crochet. You go all the bottom, you start from one corner, somewhere here, then you work your way up, all along, go over the hood, back again, go down, go to the back, come back, and you finish back at the side that you started. Don't forget to do that also with the sleeve. In my case, I'll be making it slightly longer so that I can have a bit of length also included. Because the sleeve I did, I extended it slightly so that I could get the bit that I needed, because as a result of the joints, everything was about 1 inch less, So from the 18 inch that I had calculated, I only got 17. So I extended it when I put in the black, for the edges. I just extended the sleeve a little bit longer so that I could have a bit of length for my sleeve. Put some fasteners on and finished it. Hope you try this.